right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for this session, which is What is Orthodox Psychotherapy and Life Coaching, presented by Thomas Perkins, Fotini, Birbilis, and Deacon Markos, Nickolas. And so I am Lydia. My name's Lydia. I'm just going to be reading their little biographies, their introductions about just who they are and the wonderful work that they've been doing. So, Thomas Perkins is a psychotherapist who practices in Brooklyn, New York, and attends St. Nickolas Antiochian Orthodox Cathedral. After a 10-year career as a high school English and special education teacher and a half-year stint as an interim dean of students at Academy of the Pacific Rim in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, he completed a degree in clinical social work at Boston College School of Social Work. Upon completion of a long postgraduate supervisory process, he now practices independently with Orthodox and non-Orthodox populations. His specialties include attachment-based EMDR for PTSD, family substance use and group therapy, certified by American Group Psychological Association. But he works with a wide range of clients. Thomas currently attends St. Vladimir's Theological Seminary with a Master of Arts concentration and is considering a switch to the MDiv track. Outside of work and church, Thomas enjoys music, cooking, soccer, sports, traveling, hiking, and socializing with friends. Fotini Birbilis, Orthodox life coach, was born and raised in Athens, Greece. She received her bachelor's from the American College of Greece and master's in counseling psychology from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. While in graduate school, she had the opportunity and privilege to also study under Virginia Sotir, one of the pioneers of family therapy. In the 1980s, Fotini created the family program for the families of substance abusers in Camden, New Jersey, and later asked to implement this program in West Jersey Hospital. Presently, she is in private practice as an Orthodox life coach and owns Stay Whole, LLC. Her approach is greatly influenced by her Orthodox faith, which she incorporates in the tools she provides to her clients with great success. And Deacon Markos Nickolas is a mental health counselor, in private practice in Massachusetts. He also serves as the coordinator of Agape Circle, a pan-Orthodox small group fellowship for growth in faith, hope, and agape love. Please join me in welcoming our presenters.
Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for staying this long at OCAMPR. Here we are. I'm just going to quickly read through a few possible questions, which no one should feel pressured to answer, but they're possible guiding questions that I thought of when I first envisioned this presentation on what is Orthodox psychotherapy and life coaching. Actually, would anyone care to read this out loud? Okay, then I'll just read it. Oh, no, go ahead. Did you say you wanted to read it? No, okay. What does it mean to be an Orthodox Christian psychotherapist? How is this different from being a regular or secular psychotherapist? Not that there's necessarily a difference. If we look at the transfiguration, right? All things are transfigured. Therefore, we ought to see everybody in the image and likeness of God. Nevertheless, there are certain patristic quotes we might add and so forth, certain styles we may use. Is it necessary to make a distinction? If so, how would one's work change by integrating whatever definitions or illustrations we come up with today into CBT, DBT, EMDR, and other techniques? Or just you as your own unique person as a therapist and whatever techniques you employ? What are the implications for self-disclosure with patients who are Orthodox? What are the implications, risks, and or rewards of disclosing Orthodox identity to patients who are non-Orthodox? Does it change the way we work with couples? How about with Orthodox and non-Orthodox who struggle with addictions? This panel will include personal reflections from several Orthodox therapists and life coaches to questions including or similar to the ones above, and audience members can then feel free to add their insights during the question and answer session. So as we proceed, I'll quickly race through these because I really don't want to have a presentation where we have this polished, performative self up here. I would like us to just be genuine and just feel at ease and just kind of riff off one another in whatever way you see fit. Nevertheless, just to briefly go through these, define what it means to be an Orthodox psychotherapist, describe how to integrate Orthodox theology into 3 or more modalities. These are more kind of like OCAMPR requirements. that I'm supposed to follow, right? So you can see those there. Evaluate possible risks and benefits for utilizing self-disclosure when working with various Orthodox and non-Orthodox populations. This is an important book. Fotini actually brought a copy with her. I didn't realize she was bringing it, but this is the book Orthodox Psychotherapy by Metropolitan Markos Hierothios. I believe, Deacon Mark, you've even met him before, right? Which is amazing. He writes, therapy of the soul essentially means therapy and freeing of the nous. Humankind became sick through its fall away from God. This sickness is mainly the captivity and fall of the nous. The ancestral sin is that man withdrew from God, lost divine grace, and this resulted in blindness, darkness, and death of the nous. So he isn't simply saying it's our maladaptive thoughts and so forth. It's really the fall from the Garden of Eden and so forth that causes our anxiety. Which he says here, the fall of man causes enslavement to anxiety and the environment. The truly physician-like nous, as Bishop Gerasim said the other night, is one that first heals itself and then heals others of the diseases of which it has been cured. All right. And then if we turn to this next book by Bishop Alexi Schrader, formerly Father Alexi Schrader of Mount Athos, he published a book in 2012 entitled Ancient Christian Wisdom and Arabec's Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. He says, the upright in heart have thoughts that are inclined neither to excess nor to deficiency, but are directed toward the mean of virtue, right? So there's this spirit of moderation here, as St. Basil the Great says. I love this quote here by St. John of Damascus when describing a patristic path to cognitive restructuring. He writes, gluttony can be corrected by self-control, unchastity by a desire for God and longing for future blessings, avarice by compassion for the poor, anger by goodwill and love for all men, worldly dejection by spiritual joy, listlessness by patience, perseverance, and offering thanks to God, vainglory by doing good in secret and by praying constantly with a contrite heart, and pride by not judging or despising anyone in the manner of boastful Pharisee, and by considering oneself the least of all men. So easy. Yeah, so easy, right? Briefly, though, I'd like to just mention here that, probably in psychotherapy school, social work school, you may have heard that our field is kind of a socially constructed field where whatever you say is true, right? And yet, as Orthodox, we believe in certain theology. So, here we have the possibility of integrating the ultimate truth of God's divine message into the work we do. So, we could maybe say there's a standard we're going for in a way, but obviously with compassion, or at least that's something that I take from it. So here we go. I already am at my sources, so I'm going to zoom out of this, and we'll see who would like to start. I also want to say ahead of time that we have a lot of wonderful professionals in this room. There was a deadline for selecting people from the panel, so I was thinking for the next few years I'd love to offer something like this and invite others of you in the room to participate. And even today, hopefully we can finish in the next 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and have enough time, maybe 10 or 15 minutes for various people to contribute their own anecdotes from the work you do. So I just ask that, we don't contribute confidential information that identifies someone you work with, but you can switch things up to still be able to add in some teaching moments, right? I think it's important that we can become specific in our allusions to the work we do without, obviously, giving away the confidentiality of the people we work with, right? So there's a balance there. Having said that, would anyone like to start today? Fotini or Deacon Markos? Either one, or flip a coin.
Just by... Oh, I can speak loud.
Either way.
Yeah, I can speak loud.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Then they won't record.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I'll try to do that. Is it on?
It should be on. Yeah, try it.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Every time we see a client, a patient, someone we are going to serve, this is what they're faced with. They're faced with incredible psychotherapists that are placing their own approach, training, energy into the hands of the church. They have no idea that this is what they're going to face. But this is what the people we serve faith. And I'm going to do that. Let me see. God did not give me 2 hands, 3 hands. Okay, this is a pencil, okay? And this pencil is meant to write, if it was sharpened, and to erase with the eraser. That is what the job of this pencil is. This pencil is not made to resist. When life happens, this is what happens to all of us. We break. And when we break, we feel that this is pretty much, we are broken, people are broken. And when they come to us, they feel broken. And then they come to us. And this is what we present to them. You're not broken. But I feel pain. I feel that there is no hope. I feel there is no any way to go forward. And what we tell them, sometimes my version, other times your version, is no, you're half. But that halfness does not mean you're broken. That halfness means that the pain has brought forward hurt, it's an acronym, hurt, anger, loneliness, frustration. And when the hurt, anger, loneliness, frustrations come forward, then of course you're going to feel broken. And if they have a little bit touch of faith, I go a step further. If they don't, I stop there. If they have a little touch of faith, then I go, I will explain to you why I'm right, that you're not broken. You're hurt, you're wounded, you're half. You're feeling half, you're not half, you're feeling half. And I use it as an example. Judas and St. Peter. They both broke. And it came a time when they both said, oh my God, what did we do? And the one decided that to be the end of it and throw it away. And the other went beyond the half into the whole. Now, when we are half, all those emotions are coming out. And there is no way that either we will suppress them, and we will smile, and we will develop ulcers, or we will smile to the people we work with, and like you said, we will take it out on our husband and our children. Because it is there. It is nowhere else to go. These people, when we are half, when we feel half rather, like this pencil, unless we use some tools and some other stuff, some synergy, but I will go there later, some tools, we can only, it is like having this bottle of water. I will put it there, I will put it here, but I cannot make it disappear. But the tools can actually help me do something about it. When I don't have tools, this is what happens. We go through denial. I don't have a problem. All of you have a problem. I'm fine. As long as you don't aggravate me, we have no problem. All this happens because of that. That happened to me once upon a time, and now I'm trying to suppress it. The reason why I'm like that is because you're triggering me. You're provoking me. If you do ABCD, you will not have to worry about, I will be fine. I will be smiling. I will be loving. Delay. I will see the therapist. Right now I'm busy. This is not a good time for my career. Dilemma. That is where I think Judas might have gone through. Am I having a problem? Defeat. Why bother continue living? I betrayed my God. I don't deserve to live. And I make decision. There are two possibilities. I can make a bad decision or I can make a good decision. I can make a Judas decision or I can make St. Peter's decision. So this is what happens. And how we sound, it's on the board. I raise my voice, I procrastinate. I don't want to read all of them, but it is pretty much what I do because this is in my guts. And I'm trying to make it go away. And the more I push it away, the more it's coming back. And what we say, even though we have the faith, maybe we don't serve Orthodox Christians, maybe we don't serve Christians. So we don't want to go there, but there are two pillars that our faith has given us, and Jesus Christ always talked about that. I will manipulate a little bit by using the Greek words, and I will explain to you why. Amartia and metania. Why did I use the Greek word to show off? No. Because when I say sin, people around there, yeah, okay, I've had sin. And I say, no, wait. Amartia means missing the point, missing the mark. In other words, after this happened to you, life happens. We know that life happens. We did not provoke it. But when it happens, because we have a distorted reality, attack avoidance. We don't have clarity. So what we are going to do is, by distorting reality, we are going to do what Judas did in so many ways. In other words, we are going to take the steps, those steps, that really are not serving. We recycle the hurt, anger, loneliness, frustration that we're feeling inside that we're recycling. That's what we're doing. And metania. What does metania mean? Repent. What does metania mean? Meta, news. Change, reset your mind. So what we say is, okay, life happened, we're feeling hard, we are doing things that makes absolutely sense because we're on survival mode, and we are absolutely right to do that, and absolutely right to do that. But there is another way. And the other way is by resetting our mind. And we use, and I took this from here, we use faith, focus, and an effort, And we say the faith, I just bring it up, but I don't insist. Why do I bring faith? I bring faith for me to remind myself, this is a synergy. Until they learn to rely on their faith, I have to be in synergy with Christ. I have to be the role model. And we lend them our faith, all of us. We give them our faith. Not in the form believe in Christ, not yet. But in the form of, you have to focus on becoming whole. I go back to our approach. We go back to our approach. And whole is, the third.
The third one.
Oh, wait, stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is feeling worthy. That's okay. I did not introduce that. Feeling worthy. We all were born with gifts. We have talents. I'll come back to that. Usually, the age is interpreted, I need to be happy. And when I say to them, you know what, you will be happy, but before you will be happy, let's try another way. Let's be humble. And what do you mean by humble? This happened. I'm not going to deny it. And that a little bit has given me a little bit of uncertainty about how wonderful I am, uncertainty about my identity rather. That is not a bad thing. In other words, when I'm feeling happy, it's not necessarily bad. It makes us humble. It makes us humble, so we don't have to do what we do, blame the world, blame everything else. Take it a step down. Okay, be quiet. Easy here. Let's be quiet a little bit. And after that, we hit them with be optimistic. But humble, yes, you have to be through humble to be optimistic, and you start. And then is when we introduce to them that true idea that Jesus why did Jesus did not prevent this from happening? A lot of times, the reason why this happens to us is because he trusts that this is going to empower us. It's going to help us discover something in us that there's no way we would have known about it. Like he discovered to St. Peter. And as long as we don't make this, which is what we tell our clients, as long as we don't do this destination, but it is part of the journey, as long as we don't do the crucifixion the destination, but part on the way to resurrection, it's going to take us to our resurrection. And the resurrection is when our own grief, our own pain, our own struggle with optimism, it becomes an empowerment, it becomes an asset. It is when we tell others how many people with terrible crises, with terrible problems, have come forward. They lost their babies, terrible, in fire, everything. And they came forward and they told their stories. And if they would not have given that kind of empowerment if they had not gone through that. And we start little by little helping them focus that these, of course, we don't want them to forget. They should not forget. Sometimes we say, let go. I remember early on in my career, people were saying, you're doing something wrong. A month has gone by and the person has not stopped grieving. And I'm saying, what do you mean stop grieving? They still remember the loss. They will always remember. We cannot tell them that they will forget. But they remember it in a different light. Not in the light of that, but of a half that it is suppression. It is, why did this happen to me? Why God does not love me? But in the part that of a synergy, God gave me this because he trusted me that I will do something with that wisdom, that muscle that I did not have before all this pain came. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. So when we are, planning the journey that they are going to take, I usually say, pray for strength because you're going to need the strength. And what I really mean is, you're not going to do it alone. Nothing of what is here, you're going to do it alone. And I always tell them, you're not going to do it alone. I might not clarify and say, Jesus is going to be with us throughout the trip, the journey. I do say, we're going to do it together. A little parenthesis, my office where they come is like iconostasy, it is full of the icons. So subconsciously, they're getting the idea of who is present in this journey. So, first of all, we pray, they pray, that is what I present. Not collect, not together, I give it to them. I will pray for strength because we are going to do it together. If you want, pray too. And then I say, let's focus. What are we going to do? Our focus is not to forget this. Our focus is to do something out of this. Let's try, let's put the effort. It's going to be difficult. Reach out. You cannot do it alone. Because this pencil, which represents us when life happens, we need others. We cannot do it solo. We need a church. And church in Greek means ecclesia. It is collection. It is group of people. And sometimes we feel that all I need is a relationship with God. I need a relationship with God and a relationship with each other in order to go through that journey. Reach out. Have, in the beginning, a Christian coach or a confessor, depending on what place the person is in their faith. And that attachment, that connection, that synergy, that bonding invites Jesus Christ into the mix. They talk it out, and then they face and address the truth. But in the meantime, we give them a script. And the script is talk and act with calm and composed, I will put it in my own words. Talk in a calm and collective way. Look at the other person in the eyes. If you feel that as you're talking calm and collectively, that is happening, that kind of half emotion start boiling inside you, I have an expression. Excuse yourself. My expression is go buy milk. Excuse yourself and remove yourself from the situation while you're still calm and collected, while you still have an eye contact with the person. And when you are out, pray the Jesus prayer. If they have learned it, eventually I teach it to them. We teach it to them. Or just clear your head, whichever way you want, and come back. And then we say, do not start drama and do not be part of somebody else's drama. Rather, remove yourself from the situation, change the subject. This, what I have here, it is pretty much like a script. Why? We cannot control thoughts and feelings. We can only control behavior. The behaviors become a vehicle. If I keep on doing that and develops and grows inside me, then what happens is my behavior calms me down. My behavior is going to be my own vehicle. Now, this is still reality to me. I still remember that. But my script is carrying me. And it is that kind of focus of resetting my mind. When people say, how do I reset my mind? Use the script. Use the script. That will reset your mind. When people say to me, what else can I do? I cannot take it. And then I introduce the beautiful fasting we have in our faith. We fast. Well, I don't call it fasting. I call it built endurance. In other words, we are helping not to react, but to delay reaction. And we go to the gym. We endure the pain. And there are ways in our life that actually reflect what we do in church, like the fasting, like the meditation. How do we do it? We do meditation. To me, what I tell them is, when you meditate, please, if you have a faith, keep on saying, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, if you have faith. If you don't have faith, just say, please help me, please help me. Who? The universe. I don't care what they say, because I want them to develop the script. And that is pretty much good. And that is pretty much how we go from half into whole. And then what we actually do is we sustain them and we maintain them, because that's what we are. We are the carriers of these people from half to whole. Thank you.
Beautiful, Fotini. I love this image of the broken pencil, and just it dovetails on what I was going to say. Deacon Mark, he's so humble. He said, Thomas, why don't you go next? Even though I know he has a lot of enlightenment to share. But yes, it reminds me, I'm going to just load a CBT worksheet that I use, just very briefly. I'm not really a big fan of CBT, but sometimes while we're waiting to process trauma, and you don't want to process trauma right away, well, what do? You don't want to just have a staring contest, right? So it can kind of slow things down a little bit. And I like how Fotini kind of said, we have to suffer in order to ask for God's help, in order to experience resurrection, so to speak, right? We have to be aware of our suffering and emptiness and so forth. And so, for example, if I load this CBT thought record, I created a thought record basically that, it's a thought record you might have seen if you're a therapist. Let me just put it full screen. There's a column here that says patristic quote to challenge the automatic thought or core belief. So for example, I'll just do one example. Like let's say somebody says, you know, what are some, let's just hear some shout outs. What are some common core beliefs that people have, you know, like I'm unlovable, for example, or the world is unsafe. What are some other ones we often hear in our sessions? Would anyone like to volunteer?
There's nobody there for me.
There's nobody there for me. I'm alone, right? Or, yeah. What else do we hear?
I expect bad things to happen to me.
Exactly. I expect bad things to happen to me. Let's hear one more.
I'm a failure.
I'm a failure. I'm a monster. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna just say I'm broken, just for the sake of this example. I'm broken beyond repair, right? And here, use both hands for this. And I'm not going to go through the whole thought record, but you know, I would run through a few categories basically, and then when we get to this category, you know, ultimately I might ask somebody who's Orthodox, or even if someone is like Catholic or something like that, or open to it, I might just put in the language of the early church, if they're Protestant or something. But I might say something like St. Paisios of Mount Athos, right? He says, God can take broken tiles and turn them into a beautiful mosaic, right? And the person may not believe that yet, but this is a possible challenge to the automatic thought, right? That maybe we can begin to help them internalize, right? Obviously, maybe we haven't processed trauma yet or anything, but maybe this is a possibility for the thought record. And for someone who, you know, didn't have a lot of structure at home growing up, maybe it is helpful to do a thought record once in a while, right? So that's just one example. You know, I might, just to read a few more that I might put down just really quick, you know, St. Paisios also said, do not believe your thoughts, neither when they tell you that you are terrible, nor when they tell you you are a saint, right? This is just another example. Or I like to also say, St. Isaac the Syrian has this beautiful thought, be still and stillness will enter. Like if someone says, I can just never leave my fight or flight mode, you know, I'm permanently anxious and dysregulated, right? And I'll X out of this, and I just want to share, Deacon Mark, do you want to go next and then I'll dovetail off of you? Or what do you think? I'll share an anecdote somewhat briefly. So I process a lot of trauma, and I had this one patient who came in, and you know, for the sake of this presentation, I'll just call him Matthew, okay? And he came in to see me. I had just started psychotherapy. I hadn't gotten trained in any particular trauma-oriented intervention, EMDR and so forth. And he didn't tell me he had trauma in the intake process. But anyway, it came out that he had been sexually abused when he was like 5 years old. And so he started to have all these dreams at night. And my dad's a psychoanalyst, so I grew up, you know, my dad used to ask me what my dreams were at the breakfast table, right? So I knew something about dreams, or enough to maybe dive into those with him. And he didn't have $300 to go to another psychoanalyst. So I said, okay, well, let's do it. So, you know, I knew, for example, as many of you probably know, that Freud would say that dreams diagnose a broken bone. Dreams kind of are there for wish fulfillment. Jung would go to another step, though. He would say that dreams are actually compensatory and provide healing. And actually, they can actually be like sent from God. And sometimes I'll do some psycho-ed with people if they heard, for example, from their priest that, you know, the demons will attack you if you listen to your dreams. Well, I might gently just say, well, what about, you know, Joseph from the Old Testament? You know, what about when he had a dream that his wheat grain will grow higher than his brothers? You know, this is a prognostic dream, but it's also maybe a compensatory dream to help him build self-confidence and maybe self-actualization eventually, right? To become the king of Egypt, or the Pharaoh, or basically, right? And there are many other examples of that. So anyway, this guy, Matthew, he started to share these memories, you know, of these intrusive thoughts. I won't say exactly what they were, but it was from a school and someone crossing his boundaries and everything. And he used to go to a church before our sessions and sit quietly for 45 minutes. And basically what would happen is as his body would get more still and he would do his deep breathing and he would be saying these novenas to the saints of his tradition, right? Which are also our tradition a lot of times. You know, he would start to have these intrusive memories because our body is like, as you know, I usually use the metaphor of a fuse box, right? When our fuse box in our apartment or our house is working and the appliances are on, it can contain the electricity, right? But when the electricity becomes too forceful, the fuse breaks. And that's like dissociation, right? And so when we can become still again, paradoxically the fuse comes back into place and things can function. And basically we can contain these memories that were so stressful that wouldn't otherwise enter when the fuse was broken, right? So his fuse box would get more healthy and work, but paradoxically he'd get these intrusive memories. And so what would happen was I would sit there and say the Jesus prayer with my prayer rope. I actually got this one from the monastery of St. Nectarios in Greece this summer, but there was another one I used to use, and he would sit there saying Hail Marys, and then what would happen was he would start to divulge these memories of the abuse, right? And, there was a lot of catharsis and everything. And yeah, basically I was just there to observe God's healing, and reassure him that he's going to be okay. And he had this dream, and this is like an amalgam of several pages. It's not actually his dream, but I'll just say it because it's not exactly the content of the dream, but that he was crawling as a child, age 5, about the same age, that things occurred at his nursery school. And he found a coffin in the dream in an underground cave, and inside of the coffin was gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which obviously comes from the Christ nativity story. And what this really means, if you think about it in the context of compensatory dreams, is he felt that he was broken beyond repair. He felt that his whole personhood was hijacked permanently, right? And that, he had suicidal ideation and all those things. And so the dream was there to show him that his personhood was in fact intact, that the image of Christ was very much available to him, right? And then he went above ground, and there were these blossoming plants and flowers and everything. It's just to show that his whole ecosystem was actually alive and possibly healthy, right? And this is to compensate for the doubt that he had about himself. So I believe that this came from God to show him the royal road to his unconscious, but to the kingdom of heaven and healing. So anyway, I just wanted to share that briefly. There are other examples I could go into, but I think it's time for Deacon Mark to share his thoughts on his patients, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, I really loved both of those presentations. I don't really have a lot of rich things to say, like you said today. It's just the day I'm having, but I know that there's a lot of people in here who do, so I'll just be very brief and share a few things. I'm learning more about, the central theme is embodiment, I'm learning more about the role of physiology and the nervous system in doing the work. And more and more I'm inclined to start with that, to try to see where people are in terms of their level of self-regulation and relaxation. And I'm just paying attention to their physiology, and my own. I try to establish myself in a spirit of peace before we meet and as we're meeting. And I try to give my full attention. I try to see the person as sent by a higher power for a higher purpose beyond just this exchange that we're having, where they're paying for a service and trying to provide a service. I try to see it as an Orthodox Christian, to try to see it in a bigger sense. And I'm never disappointed with that. I don't feel I almost don't feel like I'm the expert at all. I feel like I'm a witness and witnessing their beauty, and with that word, and witnessing that process emerge of healing. I am praying often during the session or before the session. They don't know that, unless they're Christian, and there are a few people that do want to pray at the beginning. We'll usually let them do the prayer, or if they want, we'll do the prayer to the Holy Spirit or something. And so, with the idea of beauty, I don't know if anyone saw the movie last night, and that whole mission of beauty first, in their films, but also in the book Ethics of Beauty, where Timothy Petitsis, he kind of takes a harsh look at psychotherapy, actually. And that comes out of his experience with it, where he felt, well, I shouldn't say what he felt, right? My sense is that he had some experience where it struck him that there are certain types of therapy that can feel overly scrutinizing, let's say. And when a person feels under the microscope for their defects, or that it may work for some people, but a lot of people it won't. That we tend to open up to safety and love and acceptance and non-judgment more than to that kind of deep scrutinization. I won't say analysis because I don't mean to imply that psychoanalysis is like that necessarily. But in any case, so he had whatever experience he had, and he wrote that he thought the Western psychological approach, the dominant school at the time that he had in mind, was putting truth before beauty. It was starting with truth. Let's get at the truth of what your problems are, the truth of what you're doing to create your problems, and the truth of what you need to do to fix them. And that heavy emphasis on truth, though appropriate, was maybe not appropriate at the beginning. And so in his research of our tradition, identifies the progression really starts with beauty first, and then goes to goodness, and then ends with truth. So he would, I'll just say, you can look at the book to see more of what he has to say, but it's basically starting with the beauty of, well, we could start with the beauty of creation. We could start with the beauty of all around us, like Pia was talking about with art and the icons that she gave us, and the beauty of one another, and trying to see that beauty and honor that beauty first, and draw that out. So what helps bring that out is our own peacefulness, and our own. You mentioned the word humbleness. I feel you said humbly. I humbly defer to you. It was really because I'm empty and poor. That's why, not because I'm rich. I'm just aware of my poverty, especially today. Maybe another day I'd be, have more to offer. But I know from the Lord that He takes our poverty. So He emptied Himself, right? So maybe it's okay. Sometimes I don't know what to say in a session. I'm not the healer. The person needs more than I can give them so often. But what the wonderful thing is that, except for the people maybe who quit, that I don't hear from, so many people go away feeling better, feeling more themselves, more beautiful, wanting to continue with life. So that's kind of my goal, is to help the person find their vitality on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The thing about beauty is it tends to go with the body, I think of it that way. We see beauty. And so by starting with beauty, we would start with the body. And so more and more, as I say, I'm starting to notice people's physical energy level, their physical presentation, and attune to them there. And maybe inquire about it. But also, like I said, if I'm in a calm place, I know that if we're close, we have an energetic connection. And that's why I like meeting in person, although I also do sessions on Zoom. But so I know I'm learning about co-regulation of the nervous systems. And so we can lend peace to others through our own calming of our own nervous system. And one of the ways we do that, you mentioned eye contact. Eye contact helps to do that. It's a grounding thing. And as a person can relax, then they open up, then we open up. And a lot of the wounding that people have experienced, that all of us experience, like you said, we're all broken, is because, not only because of the external thing that's happened in our lives, but in our internal response to it, which is to kind of protect ourselves, right? So, and that closes off our heart in a way. We put up our walls. I mean, I see that in couples therapy a lot, where they come in because they're not connecting as they want to, and they often use the metaphor, or I will, of the wall going up, and they feel it, and feel like you're running into a brick wall when you want to connect with your person and you can't because they're protecting themselves. So this idea of self-protection, which is natural, like we said, it's a coping mechanism. It does help us at the time, but then it stops helping us. But we continue to do it often without being aware of it. And where am I? Oh, I should transition quickly here, but I want to finish the thought if I can. Do I have a little? So we want to open that heart up, my own and theirs, and the heart opens to love, to safety, to all those good qualities that we associate with God, with Christ. So sometimes I take people outside. I ask them if they want to go for a walk, because maybe we'll start to see that they're not really open and relaxed, and so a lot, especially with young men, it seems like many of them are really down for walking. And then they can open up more when we're actually not making eye contact all the time, because that's almost too much. So we just go for a walk, and we're very much like peers. And I have to live where there's a beautiful place to walk. So we're exposing ourselves to beauty. And also, I understand that just by looking out into the distance, letting our eyes, look onto the horizon or look at a distance, as opposed to being this close inside a little office or on the screen, but letting our eyes look far, that also has a relaxing, calming effect on the nervous system. So, and then the movement. We're walking. So that means we're walking with right, left, and that's a stimulation of the brain in a certain way, of the two hemispheres of the brain, similar to EMDR, I think, especially if you maybe walk a little bit quickly, which we tend to do. So anyway, the body, and starting with that, and then things start to unfold, and I start to try to receive more of the emotions. I think somebody said, but I like the idea of kind of going into the painful things and then coming out of it, going into it again and coming out of it, kind of not just staying so focused the whole session on it, but touching in and then keeping kind of drawing them out, not to the here and now, to the beauty around us, to the fact that they are whole and that life is moving forward.
It's like Christ will heal and then he goes up to the mountain to pray or something like that. Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, just to kind of conclude there, the goodness, I started to ask more questions about what they're doing right, about what's working, what they're doing well. I have a few. I'll just read off here because we tend to forget as we're dealing with the pain. We tend to forget, the good things. So questions like, and I ask him, I don't, well, sometimes we'll say you, but sometimes I'll ask them to respond to this. One thing I've overcome is. One thing I'm doing very well this week is. One thing I'm glad that I did, or I'm glad about, is one way I'm caring for others is. Something I'm handling better now than I did before is. Things like that. So, to bring out more of the goodness that's present, and of course we'll go into the bad too, and emotionally, and then what are the beliefs that are associated with those negative feelings, and often those beliefs are false. You know, they, and I guess they could go on the chart there of faulty cognitions. But my approach, I guess, not being a coach, is less to tell them, you know what the truth would be, but to try to draw it out more, and maybe convey it in a different way to them. Like you said, the back door side, you know, around the corner, not direct, but slant. So there's a line from a poem: "Tell the truth, but tell it slant." So I find that I do that, and then we're correcting some of those faulty beliefs, or they're correcting them, and then finally, so beauty, goodness, and truth. Well, that would be for us where we get into the higher power. That's probably the language I use with most of my clients. Do you have any concept of a higher power? What's your belief? What's your sense of that? And I also have icons when they come in, so they see that. They almost all of them know that I'm a Christian or Orthodox Christian. In some way it'll come out, but that's not really the focus. And I think in your first questions about how do we, I guess, integrate, or what's the difference for being an Orthodox Christian as a therapist versus not, aside from maybe praying and recognizing that I'm not really the therapist, that he's the therapist, and he has his own relationship with them that's ongoing, that I just get to witness, kind of participate in, and everybody's journey is so mysterious. But when the heart starts to open and love can be felt and can be offered, and forgiveness can happen, you know, for people, then I really see that forgiveness is part of the way of Christ, and then that love that he's all about. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts. I do have a beautiful meditation that I can read if there's time at the end, but let's.
Why don't we open it up in a second, and then if people would like to stay another minute or two or however long, we can do a meditation together. And you know, if you need coffee or something or tea, do what you need to do at the bathroom. Did anyone else want to say one more thing before we hand it off to questions and anecdotes from others? And we can take another 10 minutes here. You can leave at exactly 6, at 5 if you need to. Are we ending at 6 or 5? I get confused because of the time change.
We're ending at 5.
At 5, that's right. Okay, and then half an hour, and then healing of the hands, right? Do you want to say anything? Okay. Beautiful recipe. Some people need a model and a recipe, right? And other people, you know, it's beneficial to draw them out, right, through the slant approach. Let's see. And by the way, forgiveness, right? With trauma, we often hear empower, empower, empower. And then if people get really angry, we think that their problems are solved in maybe what I would consider more secular psychotherapy. But like, what about inner peace, right? What if inner peace is the end goal, as Deacon Mark, I think, might be saying here? Would anyone like to ask any questions or provide any anecdotes from your own work? Yeah. Thank you.
I'm really interested to hear from you, Deacon Mark, more about how it is that you are approaching physiology and physicality in sessions. I've been thinking about that a lot in this theme of being embodied, but I actually don't feel well trained in that. And it can, because I feel awkward about it, I think it would become awkward. I'd love to hear how you would approach a client and how you would introduce that comfortably.
Yeah, because of time, I'll refer you to my two favorite teachers that I've been learning from. Peter Levine, Somatic Experiencing is the name of his model. Yeah, he lays it all out. Yeah, you really need to try to work with someone who does it. So I would go to a somatic experiencing therapist and then learn it that way. You could also do the training; it's super expensive. And then another really good one I like is sensory motor psychotherapy. And the person I like who teaches that is Janina Fisher. And you can get a lot out of her writings, and she has a workbook that I give to clients. And So Pat Ogden is the other author, maybe the primary author, but I really like how Janina Fisher teaches.
Great question. Who else has a question or an anecdote they'd like to share? Anybody? All right, great. And please say your name, too. You can't all see everyone's name back.
So it's kind of an amalgamation of thoughts. I've thought about this quite a bit, and the difference between, you can't offer somebody something that they're not looking for. So I work with, Orthodox as well as secular clients. And I thought, okay, what are we doing? Like, I can't absolve sins. That's one thing. I've thought, okay, the carnal man, the natural man, and the spiritual man. Like, a lot of people are very passive. Like, they have automatic responses. They have such carnal enmeshment that for some people, I think it's bringing the carnal to the natural man. And then, like, my patron is Saint Silouan, loving one's enemies. I can't do that without the grace of God. I want to be able to. So I wonder, that's all of that together. Like, with some clients, we can only go so far. With other clients, like, the life of the church is so needed for the Jesus prayer, let's just say. Like, I can't disentangle the Jesus prayer from the ascetic life, the life in the parish, the life in church. But it's so healing. So how could I teach? I don't think I can teach somebody who's outside the church the Jesus prayer. But is it psychological balance that we're helping certain clients towards? Like, it seems to me that's the height outside the church that one could be brought to. It's just my thoughts. I wonder, like, secular versus Orthodox, like, what we do when there's a need that someone perceives that they have, but there's something more, but we can't offer because they're not open. Potentially, we're encountering resistance. That's a lot, I know, but those are just thoughts that have come to mind over the years.
Can I answer?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
I love what you said. And it is true that a lot of times, a tiny step, it is like climbing a mountain. Getting them from half to whole. I will use my terminology if that is okay with you. And we pretty much have to take them step by step. In other words, in so many ways, we validate where they are. A little bit reverse psychology. In other words, Of course you are upset. Of course you cannot see yourself. And by validating what they believe and they're strong about, they don't have to defend it. And I'm talking about in that moment, we're becoming partners in we're seeing where they are and we empathize with them. And sometimes half emotions, all they need is to be validated. And they don't have to defend them if they're being hurt. And that empties them because I see what you're talking about. And yeah, it is hard, but you can do it. But it is hard, I can understand that. And there are a lot of people that will not be, but you can do it. In other words, we can stay with them. Because that's what a lot of clients, they come to us, not to get better, but to be understood. To share, you know what, everybody says, and they don't want. In that moment, as we are going through that, I'm the one that says, Lord, have mercy. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy. They don't say it. I say Kyrie eleison. But I bring him into this energy. And trust me, he's there. And you see it a little bit because in the moment, at least, I don't know if they interact with you afterwards, but sometimes they might leave this session like that. And either you will get a text or the next day, the next time, the next session, they're going to say, I don't know, but next day, and I always tell them one thing. We always tell them one thing. It's not only me. We say, right now you're going to feel heavy and down. Suggestion. But tomorrow you're not going to feel the way you're feeling today. Suggestion. And a lot of times they are going to say, I don't know if I can feel better right now. I understand. It is a lot. It is heavy. Validating where they are. We don't have to take them someplace. We have to tell them that they can do it by the grace of God. They can move to their focus. Did I answer?
I'll have to think on it. Thank you.
If you need to go, feel free. Does anyone else want to answer a question or share an anecdote? Thank you. What was your name again before, just now?
Oh, Adam.
Adam, that's right. Thank you, Adam. And can you say your name?
Brenda.
That's right.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. One, the Jesus prayer. I've used that with clients that are non-Christians, meaning, Christians that aren't Orthodox. But it was in the context of like learning relaxation skills, learning to calm themselves, and then asking to choose. Like, would you like to incorporate a Christian meditation piece in your relaxation? And some have said yes, and some say, anyway, just saying, I think it can be done to answer your question. And then, of course, I think we use the Jesus prayer. Many times, I'll be praying the Jesus prayer with a bracelet on my wrist, and the clients think I'm playing with my bracelet. They don't know I'm praying. But my point is that's an integrative thing that I think we can do as therapists, is pray in the moment with our clients. Just a couple other thoughts. Forgiveness can be used with non-Christians. There's a lot of secular research on forgiveness, in fact, and that can be very powerful. I'm thinking of a victim of sexual abuse, and we get a lot of classic stuff to deal with trauma, but eventually we got to forgiving her brother, kind of thing, who had sexually abused her as a child. And then one other thought, with this same client, we got stuck with her own sense of shame, and it was real difficult with the secular techniques I learned in grad school to get through that, because this was a spiritual issue. And what helped free her was talking about involuntary sin. We say that in our communion prayers every week, voluntary and involuntary sin. That's how she could conceptualize this abuse, that it was involuntary on her part, but it was sinful to participate, even involuntarily, in something in something sinful. So just, I think there are many ways we can integrate some Orthodox concepts, even with non-Christians. Or non-Orthodox.
Thank you, Brenda. Anybody else? All right, I guess it's time for Vespers. So hopefully you can all stay for Vespers, happening in 20 minutes. And I want to thank again Fotini for your excellent work and excellent blueprints. I mean, I think there's DBT is valuable, and I love how you integrate, Orthodox Christian phronema, right, into your work. It's very beautiful, and it gives people a recipe for success when they're hopeless. If they feel hopeless, and you said feelings are not facts, right, which is already challenging their thoughts in a gentle way. And Deacon Mark, I loved how your humility, just like being able to say, well, I don't always know what to say, right? And sometimes, like on a day like today, I'm aware that maybe I don't feel as, creative with my ideas as some days. And that's actually paradoxically when the patients have the best results, right? When we get out of the way and they become the therapist, right? I thought, out of many things you said, that stuck out to me. Yeah, just go ahead.
Could I invite people to take a look at Agape Circle? It's a really great initiative to create interpersonal communion on a more interpersonal level, dialogically, in small groups among Orthodox Christians of various parishes and jurisdictions. Right now, meeting on Zoom, but ultimately in person, where we can feel that energy of one another, be face to face in a small group in various locations. And I would think that therapists would be ideal facilitators for Agape Circles in your area for the Orthodox. Not as a part of your business, but as a service to the church. And we have a really good method. We're starting next Sunday, October 6th at 6:30 on Zoom on East Coast time. So I have cards if you'd like it, but it's agapecircle.com. Please come and look at the website. It's not very good, but come to one of the meetings and experience it, and then maybe you can spread it. Thank you.
It's awesome, by the way. If you haven't got a chance to do it, you should definitely check it out. I actually put it on my survey that hopefully they would offer Agape Circles, after dinner next year at OCAMPR. So if you want to put that on your survey, maybe that would help lobby OCAMPR to officially allow Deacon Mark to teach it. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. God bless you and all.